Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some movie recommendations that I think are going to resonate with not just INFJs. I think they're movie recommendations for anyone who is remotely interested in cinema and in cinema that has a purpose going beyond mere entertainment, I guess. Now, the reason why I'm still attaching this video to the theme of the INFJ in general is that the four directors that I'm going to be talking about are INFJ. And they are among my favorite directors. And it's really interesting because I've watched a ton of films. And by the way, I'm just thinking that I have watched a ton of films. I don't really know what angle I could take to make videos, interesting videos about that. So if you have ideas, if you'd like me to talk about films, including, older films, European films, let me know. Let me know in the comments, okay? But in this video, I'd like to focus on four INFJ directors that were in my heart long before I knew of my own type and stuff like that. So it's really interesting because I've watched hundreds and hundreds of movies. I have like an informal top 20 films that I love. I have a top 20 of films I love. And in fact, there are films by these four directors in my top 20. So you can imagine, like, when you take into account the fact that there are so many directors, so many movies, so many people of different types. Well, like, there are four directors with movies in my top 20, including two, I think, no, including one that has two films in my top 20. So, yeah, that's pretty remarkable, really. I must have found something there that, like, resonated with me. And actually, you know what? Let me correct myself. There's two directors with two movies and two directors with one movie. Now, I'm going to kill the suspense and give you the list of those four directors, okay? I'm sure you've heard their names before. First one, been talking about him recently, indirectly, is Terrence Malick, okay? So Terrence Malick, American director, quite mysterious person, quite mysterious character, doesn't make a lot of films, and some of his movies are his films are kind of hit and miss, but the ones that I love, I absolutely adore them. So the movie that I adore the most by Terrence Malick is called The Tree of Life. Sorry, no, not The Tree of Life. I had The Tree of Life in mind because I was talking about The Tree of Life in the comments yesterday. No, I love The Tree of Life. It grew on me massively since I first saw it. Like, the first time I saw it, I was thinking, it's a bit pompous, it's not subtle. I've seen this topic done better before, but it stuck with me, and I've watched it twice since then, and I would say The Tree of Life is definitely my top 20, but in my top 5, I would put Days of Heaven. So maybe I'm going to talk about these two films. I recommend watching these two movies if you have not. So Terrence Malick has made a lot of films. Well, not a lot, but a lot more films than just these two. Not a lot though. He's a bit like Daniel Day-Lewis, who's also an INFJ actor in this case, for getting involved in productions every 4 or 5 years, with a few exceptions. Sometimes does nothing for 20 years. He's done, like, a lot of his films are seen as kind of classic by people. So the first film that is considered kind of classic by Terrence Malick is called Badlands, but I liked that film. It stars Martin Sheen, but I wasn't as crazy about Badlands as other people were. However, Days of Heaven, which I think came out in 1978, starring Richard Gere. You're probably going to laugh at this, but anyway, so one of those two. starring him and Sam Shepard, an actor that I like a lot as well, in a movie that's quite short and that is just amazing. So I recommend it. Beautiful, beautiful filmography, cinematography, but also like the photography, but also the theme, the acting, really fantastic. It's a cohesive whole. What I love about films that are made by INFJ directors usually is that they tend to be very cohesive. So everything comes together. You have the aesthetic side that is quite present, the philosophical dimension, the story. It's all imbricated within just this like overarching kind of thing that proceeds forward. And Days of Heaven is like that. Terrence Malick also directed The Thin Red Line, which I liked, and The New World and films like these. But the Tree of Life came out 2011. I really, really recommend as well. It's a bit tough if you're not used to watching films where really the ambition of the director is not to just entertain you with a basic storyline. It actually doesn't really follow the traditional storylines in a way that Days of Heaven does a bit more. Days of Heaven is a bit more traditional in this sense, and it's also a bit shorter, so it's easier. If you want to dig it, if you want to sort of dip your toes into the Malick filmography, I would suggest maybe starting with Badlands or Days of Heaven. It's an hour and a half, and you'll see if you vibe with it or not. Tree of Life is 2.5 hours, very philosophical. Apparently has a kind of a post-Christian vibe. To me, it mostly resonated with a kind of Spinoza view of the world and a pantheistic view of the world. So God as the cosmos and us belonging in the cosmos as parts of the cosmos, the oneness that I talked about in the recent video. So I really recommend that. It has Brad Pitt, Jessica Chastain, Sean Penn in it. Beautiful visuals, again, all make sense as a unity. It's a strange experience, but stick with it. It will stay in your mind. So that's for my 2 recommendations from Terrence Malick, the first INFJ director I wanted to talk about. Now, the second INFJ director that I want to talk about is... who could I tackle next? Well, I guess I could tackle Andrei Tarkovsky. So I don't know if you guys have heard of Andrei Tarkovsky. He's a Russian filmmaker who died, I think, in the 80s or something like that, from cancer. He died young at like 45 or something, or 50. And so I'm assuming that in the US, like, he wasn't well known for a long time because he was he was a Russian filmmaker. So, but he has made kind of similarly to Malick. He hasn't made a lot of movies, partly also because he died so young. But he is an amazing director who's made some masterpieces, including one that maybe you've heard of that's called Stalker, and a few other ones. Now, the 2 that I recommend, I recommend watching Stalker as well. It's very long and demanding. It's 3 hours long. It's, again, a blend of the mystical, the philosophical, the romantic, in a sense, the spiritual, the aesthetic, so I recommend watching the movie The Mirror. Came out 1975, I think, and perhaps, I don't know if this is my favorite movie, but it's like also in my top 5 or top 3. Solaris, not the remake with George Clooney that came out in 2002, but by Steven Soderbergh. I've not watched it. I'm sure it's decent, but Solaris that came out in 1972, so 4 years after the 2001 Space Odyssey by Kubrick. And Solaris is an unbelievable movie because it's a movie about exploring space, but from the point of view of the influence that the exploration of space and being like in this kind of almost other dimension has on your consciousness, and makes you re-explore the past. That's what it does to the character, and again with unbelievably good visuals, flashbacks that are just with like some amazing classical music. It's I have no words for how amazing it is. Perhaps in the past there were moments when I mentioned it as my favorite movie, but in any case, I really recommend you watch Solaris. Now, two more directors, each with only a single movie that would have made it into my top 10, but they have a lot of other great movies. Well, I mean, one of them is Lars von Trier. So I'm assuming that you might have heard of Lars von Trier. He's directed Dogville in 2003, I think, or 2006. I think it's 2003. Starring Nicole Kidman, which was a big influence on one of my theater plays that I wrote. So I really recommend you check out Dogville. Now, my favorite film by Lars von Trier is called Dancer in the Dark, with Björk as the main character. You know, who plays this this immigrant from the Czech Republic, I think, working class, working in a factory, who's going blind. She has a son who inherited her condition. She needs a doctor, and some dramatic things happen. It's a conceptual movie also because it features a lot of elements of the musical. There are lots of songs in the film as well. So I really recommend that. Lars von Trier, he may have contributed the second movie in my top 20, but I would not be quite as certain that I would place it in my top 20. Is Melancholia. Came out 2011. I think 2011 was a great year for films. Melancholia, starring Kirsten Dunst and Charlotte Gainsbourg principally. Also Kiefer Sutherland, I think. And you know, it's about this wedding that takes place and lots of dramatic things that take place at this wedding, but it's the context of the wedding is that there is like this huge asteroid called Melancholia that like scientists are keeping track of because they're expecting it's not going to hit the Earth, but there is a lot of uncertainty and anxiety about that. And as the movie progresses, Melancholia gets closer and closer in the sky, and it has this unbelievably suffocating atmosphere, also extremely philosophical, aesthetic, spiritual, romantic. Really recommend it. I saw it in the cinema, and I have to say the ending scene is absolutely breathtaking. Now, last INFJ director that I recommend and that you already know is David Lynch. Sometimes hypothesized to be an INFP, but to be honest with you, I'm pretty certain that he's an INFJ. Not necessarily based, not only based on his personality, but also on his films. It seems to me that there's a great deal of TI in David Lynch, a lot of conceptual stuff and a lot of NI as well. So the film that I would personally keep close to my heart is Blue Velvet. But I also love Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, The Straight Story. I even love Inland Empire, Eraserhead. You know, like these are probably films that you're familiar with. I love that I'd love him to make some more films. I mean, he's been on a hiatus since Inland Empire. I know that he has released the third season of Twin Peaks. I have not checked it out yet. But obviously Twin Peaks, the old series, is a must-see. I've not watched the third season yet. I was told it was really good. The reason why I have not watched it is that it sounds kind of like really absurd and a little bit dark. Like not the most jovial atmosphere, if you like. And not that I was expecting anything jovial from Lynch. But I guess for a long time, last year, I was considering it. But then I went through a phase where time, was a bit of a bumpy time for me. It was a bit rough. And so I was kind of looking for stuff that was a little bit more, just a bit more lighthearted, a bit more entertaining, whilst being good. And I mean, and I ended up watching Breaking Bad, which is not the definition of lighthearted. So, but I don't know, I thought it was amazing. So I'm happy about that. But in any case, Blue Velvet, I'm not going to explain much about what it's about because I feel like it would almost spoil the film. And then a lot of his other movies. I'm thinking about Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive. These films, like you need to see them. Now, just to cap things, what do these directors have in common? Because it would be interesting to sort of tie that to what I just listed. What do these directors have in common that makes them, to me, unmistakably INFJ? Well, you notice that in all cases, there's very strong aesthetics. There's an attention to creating an atmosphere that is very strange, Not so much in Days of Heaven, but you see that in Lars von Trier, you see that in Lynch, you see that in Tarkovsky. An atmosphere that is very unique, and there's great attention shown to the environment. But there is also a great overarching concept behind these movies that often eludes us a bit. Like, we have an idea of where the author wants to go, but we're not sure that that's what he wants to say. So it leaves us hanging a little bit. It's like I said, it's almost as much a symbolic and spiritual experience and a metaphorical experience as it is a literal plot unfolding. So it's a different approach to film. Not saying that only these directors have achieved that, but they have, with usually very conceptual films where you see the INFJ aesthetically, INFJ NITI, I would say, aesthetically very refined, very worked on, very detailed in their own way, that I think is NISE in this particular case. Now, the FE, I don't know if it is super visible. It might be visible a little bit in Terrence Malick's movies, even though apparently in person he's not a master of FEUs. But I don't know, like in the Tree of Life, to me there is this longing for finding the meaning of existence from a human point of view that I would identify with NIFE. You know, so a lot of the time, strong aesthetics, strong concepts, a level of search for meaning by a human being, you know, confronting the cosmos, like in Melancholia or like the Tree of Life, the strangeness of existence. You see that in Lynch, confronting space, like in Tarkovsky. You know, there's always these big themes, and there are always movies that are to be experienced prior to trying to make sense of them, almost. I mean, of course you can make sense of them, but maybe not in the way in which you would make sense of a detective movie or something like that, you know. And to quote a philosopher whom I'm more and more thinking that he was INFJ rather than INFP, as he's often taken to be. There's a bit of debate about that. But to quote Soren Kierkegaard, existential forefather Soren Kierkegaard, life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. And I think that those four directors apply so perfectly to Kierkegaard's quote. And I will finish on this. Let me know what you think, because, you know, it's the first time I talk about movies, and I just want to make sure that what I produce is interesting, remains interesting, and does not end up becoming about just what I like, you know, at the expense of everything else. Okay? See you guys. Have a lovely day.